North America's water infrastructure is crumbling. The sewers, pumps, pipes, and treatment plants that keep our cities and towns functioning are at the end of their lifespans, needlessly wasting precious water. Fixing these problems will cost taxpayers trillions. The longer we wait, the more expensive it will become. How do we stop the big leak?
Hey everyone, I'm Tyler. And this is my younger brother, Alex.
And together, we're the Water Brothers. We're going to take you on an adventure around the world to explore the state of our blue planet, a planet defined by water and its ability to sustain life.
So join us on our journey as we explore the world, looking at the most important water stories of our time.
And together, we will learn how to better protect our most precious resource.
Our water infrastructure networks are in a state of disrepair. Old pipes are leaking or bursting and flooding streets. Polluted water is running freely into our lakes, rivers, and oceans. And our outdated water systems are struggling to keep up with rising populations and changing rainfall patterns due to climate change.
Our water infrastructure in North America is due for an overhaul. We built a lot of the infrastructure that supports our sewage collection and our water supplies 40, 50 years ago. And that stuff, we haven't been doing as good a job as we could maintaining it. As a result, it's time to replace a lot of it.
Water departments are desperate to fix this growing problem, but they are short on funds.
Every time there's a budget crisis at a municipality or a provincial or federal level, what often gets cut first is infrastructure, because you can't see a lot of the infrastructure because it's underground. And delays in it don't seem to cause problems. So what we see is the gradual rise in the deficit that we have built up in Canada. And it's really hard to measure because a lot of communities don't really understand the condition of their own infrastructure. But we see regularly numbers between $200 and $400 billion in Canada alone. And depending upon what numbers you look at in the United States, we could in the next 20 years face infrastructure deficit related to water as much as $1 trillion.
Well, the easy thing to do is to kick the can down the road. And so if you can just kind of patch up things when they reach a state of catastrophic failure, that's good enough. So when you see a water main break or a sewer main break in a city, that's a symptom of a much larger problem that we're eventually going to have to deal with.
It's mind-boggling to think, but over 8 trillion liters of treated water are lost to leaks across North America every year. Treating this water costs us a lot of money, and we are literally flushing billions of tax dollars down the drain by continuing to ignore the problems facing our water infrastructure networks. But how did this situation get this bad? Why is it taking so long to fix? And how do we redesign our water systems to be more efficient and durable? To answer these questions, we're going to go on a journey into this hidden underworld of pipes and sewers that all of us depend on, but few of us ever see.
Some cities lose 20 or 30% of the water that they collect and treat just by leaking pipes. That is, the pipes leak between the drinking water treatment plant and the customer's taps. That's water that we don't have to take out of the environment and that we don't have to spend energy and use chemicals in treating, that we could be saving if we could figure a way to plug those leaks.
In the province of Ontario alone, enough water is lost to leaks each year to fill 131,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools, equal to a loss of over $700 million. Across North America, the losses from leaks are in the tens of billions of dollars, amounts that will only continue to increase the longer we delay finding and repairing leaky pipes.
This water pipe right here is from the 1970s, but some of the pipes they're digging up along the street are from as early as 1881. They're made of cast and ductile iron, so the quality of water going through here is still okay. But the reason they're replacing them is because of holes like these. And each one of these holes could easily leak 25 to 30,000 liters of water per day, which would add up to $40,000 to $50,000 worth of water lost per year. And when you consider that across North America, there's over 2 million kilometers of water pipes, many of which are aging just like this one, it gives you a sense of the scale of the problem we're dealing with. Thankfully, they're going to replace this pipe with these new plastic PVC ones, which are less susceptible to leaks and last much longer. So hopefully they won't have to dig up this street for another 100 years or more.
When we neglect old pipes, one of the unfortunate consequences are water main breaks, which can flood entire city streets. Over 300,000 water main breaks now occur across North America every single year. And they can happen for many different reasons, from freezing temperatures that block water pipes with ice and cause them to burst, or simply because of old age and corrosion. But the longer we wait to replace our aging water networks, the more likely these breaks and floods are to occur.
When people look at water main failing and water break, they think that, okay, yeah, I'm not going to have water for one day, I can live with that. It's not so simple. We have what you call the domino effects. So when you have a water main break, we flood the highway. When you flood the highway, you stop the transportation network. When you stop the transportation network, take you extra 20 minutes to go to work. You have to find an alternative route. Who pays for that? Those extra 20 minutes that you're not working, it's a cost for the society. The costs, in the end, we pay. We don't pay in front in taxes to fix it. You pay as a society to fix the damage that those failures cause to us.
Ignoring our aging water systems is not just an economic problem. It also poses a serious threat to public health, as was most recently experienced in the city of Flint, Michigan, where a combination of poor decision-making, negligence, and aging infrastructure caused thousands of young children to be exposed to dangerously high levels of lead in their drinking water.
I think the main lesson that we can take away from Flint is that it's hard to just cut corners on a water system without thinking about the unintended consequences.
There were shortcuts taken. There were budgetary cuts decided upon, and choices were made to continue operating along those lines, which in the end produced a situation where people cannot trust their water sources. If we are lax in our standards and don't continue to fund infrastructure replacement, then we could find ourselves in similar circumstances widely across this country.
Water toxicity experts estimate that as many as 200,000 Canadian households could be at risk of being exposed to lead through their drinking water. In the US, there's an estimated 6.1 million lead service lines that supply homes, businesses, and even schools and hospitals. Replacing these lead pipes would require nearly $300 billion. Places like Flint simply cannot afford their share.
So I think that the take-home message is that we should redouble our efforts for cities that are struggling with bad economic times and recognize that water is not a provision that just is, let's make it as cheap as possible. It's something that has a public health side to it, and we can't forget that that is much more important than saving a few dollars.
Cities and towns across North America urgently need to upgrade their water and wastewater networks. And to cover these costs, you can bet we're all going to be asked to pay a little bit more for water. But there's plenty we can all do to help reduce the cost of cities to fix these problems, starting with being more responsible about what we put down our drains.
One of the most expensive burdens our water departments have to deal with daily is cleaning our sewers and wastewater systems of garbage and food that is unnecessarily dumped down toilets and sinks. Barry Orr is an official from the Environmental and Engineering Services Division for the City of London, Ontario, who has spent much of the last 20 years raising awareness about the threat garbage poses to wastewater infrastructure and the environment. We met Barry and his crew as they prepared to unblock a clogged sewer.
So what we've got here is, if you take a look deep down, as you can see all the grease that's built up on there, right?
Oh yeah.
So massive, and notice there's all these balls, right? That's from somebody dumping bacon fat down the drain, and as it's cooling, it's turning into a ball. So these
There's
are
just hundreds of them down there.
thousands of them are down here. This is like probably 3 feet thick.
Yeah,
And we'll see that as we're going to clean this out.
And you're going down there?
Unfortunately, I am going down there today.
Well, we're gonna watch from right up here. Okay. How was it?
The things I do for you guys.
Yeah, I know.
All right, let's show you if I could have the bucket.
Yeah, don't wipe your face.
So we have a blockage. This is from an 18-inch sewer line.
Wow.
So you can see how,
It's just shaped right to the line.
yeah, it's shaved right to the size of the pipe. So I literally was only able to break a piece off. It is a big, massive blockage down there.
It looks almost like cement. Like it looks
that's-
like a chunk of cement.
Yeah, and so here's the grease balls.
Oh wow.
So that's somebody who's just cooked up a package of bacon,
Yeah.
using some hot water and dumping it down the drain, and then that's what this is turning into.
We've seen how it like builds up right on the pipes.
Yeah.
What happens when there's a complete blockage? How does that affect us, just in our everyday lives?
Okay, so when you have so much wastewater going into the system, and you have a restriction of this, where's it gonna go? It's gonna go into somebody's basement. It's gonna go out into the storm drain system. And remember, that storm drain system does not get treatment. It goes directly to our creeks and rivers as potentially raw sewage. That is a huge environmental issue for us. And we don't want to see basements flooded. We know that one of the largest insurance claims is now related to flooded basements across all of Canada.
So in a sense, we're creating the problem ourselves.
We are creating an absolutely huge burden on our infrastructure system. And see how simple it would be to fix, right? All I had to do was put my bacon grease into something other than
Yeah, we don't need some special technology. We just need, I guess, a little awareness and education. Garbage puts a huge burden on our wastewater system. So today we've set some traps in different sewers along this residential street, and we're gonna pull them up and see what we can find.
So I thought we'd do a little fishing today. So here we have this fish line in here that's trapped some of the non-flushable material. Would you like the honors of bringing that up?
I get to go fish. See what we bring up?
Oh, wow.
Okay, we got a monster. We got a monster.
Let it drip a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we'll go back to the lab and we'll take that apart. You can already see that there's a huge amount of non-dispersible material.
All of the fishing lines we pulled up were completely covered in sanitary wipes. Wipes have long been used to clean countertops and messy fingers, but starting in the mid-2000s, they were rebranded as an alternative to toilet paper, and sales have since skyrocketed. However, many of these wipes contain plastic and do not biodegrade or break down in water, as many consumers have been led to believe.
So this baby wipe has been in here now for 3 years. You can see it's still fully intact, okay?
Hasn't even broken down like one bit. There's not even a little strand off.
No, there's nothing. And of course, I come in daily to agitate it to see what's gonna happen. So baby wipes are not flushable.
Over the past 5 years, more than 170 billion individual wipes have been sold worldwide. As they become more popular, many cities are now spending millions of dollars clearing them from clogged sewers and pumps. As the wipes build up, wastewater plants are being forced to install expensive screens and grinders to capture and chop them up. But even this extra equipment is getting clogged.
Sanitary and baby wipes have become a $12 billion global industry, and many manufacturers explicitly label and market their products as flushable, despite mounting evidence that they are one of the most troublesome things you could be flushing down your toilet.
It's like we have to deconfuse the consumer, and that's gonna cost millions upon millions of dollars.
While consumers can certainly help out by disposing of wipes only in the garbage, or not purchasing them at all, the most effective solution will have to come from improved labeling guidelines and regulations by governments, so consumers can no longer be misled by labels that incorrectly claim products are flushable.
It is absolutely staggering the amount of garbage that is coming in through the wastewater system. And it's just not sustainable. This is costing us all way too much money to be treating toilets like garbage cans, way too much.
Unfortunately, sanitary wipes aren't the only type of garbage clogging our wastewater systems, as we would see in a sewer beneath the streets of downtown Toronto.
All right, look what we have here. Our big find, a couple of tampon applicators, something that you unfortunately see far too often in sewers and wastewater treatment plants. And really just goes to show you how much our water infrastructure networks have changed because, you know, when this sewer was first built, plastic wasn't even invented yet. So our sewers really aren't designed to deal with the scale of garbage that we see today, especially when it's things like plastic, which can last for over a century.
The sewer we were walking in was over 100 years old and was originally designed to handle the waste of just a few thousand people. But today, many sewer lines like this are servicing hundreds of thousands of people and are not always capable of handling so much human waste, let alone our garbage.
So this is an unfortunate sight to see. Right here we have a small pill that would have been dropped down someone's drain or flushed down their toilet, probably because it was expired. But what happens is that when some of these pills break down, they can actually bypass wastewater treatment plants and make it right into our local rivers and lakes. So that's why it's so important that you return expired medication to a pharmacy. Don't put it down in the garbage, and definitely don't flush it down your toilet.
As pharmaceuticals build up in waterways, they can harm aquatic life, and trace amounts can also end up in our drinking water. When we treat our toilets like garbage cans, it isn't just our wastewater infrastructure that suffers.
So Barry, we've come down to the river and we're just surrounded by garbage right now. Where is it coming from?
Yeah, this is really troubling because we're getting more and more of these rainstorms that are actual huge events, right? And these rain events are inundating us with the rainwater, and then it gets into the sewer system, and the sewer system can't handle it all, right? So what happens would be that it would bypass the system. And so within a number of municipalities across Canada and literally across the globe, you have to allow for relief of that water. So this here is a relief structure that you can see is inundated with garbage. And this is really troubling for me because here's our beautiful river, and we're ending up with all of this garbage material within the wastewater.
Many older cities across North America use combined sewer systems, where both sewage and stormwater flow into a single pipe to wastewater treatment plants. But during heavy rainfall events, this mixture of raw sewage, stormwater, and garbage backs up the sewer system, creating a combined sewer overflow, or CSO, allowing untreated polluted sewage and garbage to flow directly into local waterways.
Because cities are ill-equipped to deal with intense rainfall events, like today where we're getting about a month's worth of rain in just 24 hours, this is what happens. Right now I'm standing in a mixture of stormwater and raw sewage that's overflowing from this sewer right here and flooding this area with thousands of liters of polluted water every single minute. And unfortunately, all this polluted water will eventually flow out into Lake Ontario, the source of drinking water for millions of people.
To understand how this problem impacts all of us, we met with Mark Matson of Lake Ontario Waterkeeper, near combined sewer overflow in Toronto.
So here on the Don River, there's a lot of what they call CSOs. And so when it rains and they overflow, you really get the sewage from the city coming right out into the river and into the lake. And so you see the mixture between what's coming out of the toilets as well as what's running off the parks and the streets, the balls and the sticks, etc. And that's really what you get, a toxic brew down here. But you know, on average, the city of Toronto discharges between 3 billion and 4 billion liters of sewage into Lake Ontario in a year. They were designed not to overflow except for once every few years.
Yeah.
But we've been getting more rain and in smaller bursts. So we've seen this happen more than once or twice a year in the last few years. I mean, the big one that everyone remembers was in July 2013, when actually the trains, the GO trains, were stopped along the Don.
During that storm, Toronto received over a month's worth of rain in just 2 hours, flooding streets and buildings and causing over $1 billion in damages. Flooding events are becoming more and more common across North America, And as climate change continues to disrupt weather and rainfall patterns around the world, it's expected that aging water infrastructure will be increasingly unable to handle these extreme weather events.
A few steps away, we tested the water for levels of E. coli and coliform bacteria and sent them to a nearby lab for analysis. Lake Ontario Waterkeeper regularly tests the water around Toronto in hopes of alerting the public to the seriousness of this problem.
We've really been fighting to ensure that the City of Toronto, when they have these overflows, that they let the public know immediately. Because it's not just the 11 beaches where people swim that are affected, it's the other 55 kilometers of the waterfront. And people throw stick to their dogs, they let their kids put their fingers in, or they row, they paddle, they sail in that water. So it's really important to know if there's raw sewage in that water, because you want to take steps to protect yourself. And I think the second really important thing is you want the public to be educated and informed so that the city, when it brings forward plans to do something about it, to restore the waterfront, to clean it up, people know why, that there's a problem.
A few days later, the results showed that the levels of coliform bacteria and E. coli at the mouth of the Don River that day were 300 to 400 times higher than the provincial water quality standards considered safe for human and aquatic life.
What's sad in Toronto is that all the recent development in downtown Toronto, all the new condos, all the new buildings are all built on CSOs.
Yeah.
So the problem isn't getting better. You've added 350,000 or 400,000 people to the problem that was already there. And I know the City of Toronto is dealing with it as fast as the money comes in, but it's going to take a real vision for the city to get this through and explain to the citizens the benefits of clean water again, because they've forgotten. They've forgotten that they drink from this lake. They've forgotten what it's like to actually have a place you can go swimming in. And they've forgotten what it's like to actually catch a fish from their lake and eat it. And that's a big problem.
Thankfully, there are many affordable ways that we can all help reduce the amount of stormwater entering our sewer systems. Rain barrels and green roofs that retain water and use it to grow plants instead of trickling to streets below. New types of permeable concrete and surfaces that allow rainwater to reach the soil, reducing runoff to stormwater drains. However, it will ultimately be up to cities to implement large-scale investments into replacing old infrastructure and improving stormwater management.
So long term, in the next 10 years, we have a council-approved capital program of $11 billion. And that covers all of our water, wastewater, and stormwater needs.
And municipalities are putting huge investment into replacing those systems, but we could have more money available to us to replace those combined systems if we didn't have to spend so much money on equipment to remove or deal with this garbage, right?
For decades, cities have been undercharging us for water, and we should expect our water bills to go up across North America to reflect the true costs of both maintaining and upgrading our water systems into the future.
10 years ago, we had underfunded our system significantly, and we started a campaign of raising water rates 9% for 9 years in a row. So we're getting closer to that sustainable level, but we're not there yet.
As cities have more funds available to them, they will be able to invest in new technologies to make our water systems even more efficient, cost-effective, and durable. New methods have been developed for identifying and fixing leaks without having to dig up entire streets. In some cities, new pipes are being installed that can generate renewable hydroelectricity by capturing the energy from falling water with turbines.
It would be a real shame if the water systems we left to our children and our grandchildren were unable to deliver the kinds of public health protection and recreational aesthetics that we expect of our water systems. And so really it's a challenge to us to adapt our water systems for the 21st century without breaking the bank. But I think it's something that we're capable of doing.
This problem is simple to understand, but harder to fix. Replacing aging water and wastewater infrastructure has been largely put off by governments for decades, but the public is beginning to wake up to this crisis.
Some local governments have been forced into being more transparent, but all need action plans to modernize their systems. It's encouraging to see some cities already making improvements, but the change we need will not be possible without additional financial help from taxpayers and higher levels of government.
Providing these water services is the most important thing a municipality can do for its citizens. And there's simply too much at stake to ignore these problems any longer.
Join us and dive deeper into the episodes at thewaterbrothers.ca.